In all the years I played professional football, I witnessed some incredible examples of courage, both on and off the field. But I don't know if I've ever seen an athlete quite like the one you're about to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, would you help me welcome David Stevens?
I talked to a Yankee scout, and he said, there's no really reality of you ever getting in. The odds are 30 trillion to 1 because guys with legs don't make it, and they have to be the best. You have to be the best in the world, which means you have to be 10 times best. And I just said, well, you can't take my dream away from me.
It's when you go in public that people that don't know you that stare and point and say the things. To this day and age with my kids, they hear it, and we always look for who said the weirdest thing or which kid freaked out the most, or those kind of things, just because it's just common. And I think my kids have learned to embrace it as well. So I just thought of myself as a normal kid, and then so playing sports seemed normal for me.
What would be your plan to begin making as an athlete?
Well, I'd like to maybe get into professional broadcasting and maybe someday replace Howard Cosell.
Well, whatever you do, I'm sure you'll be successful, and we're proud of you. You're indeed an incredible young man.
I like the way I am, and I like the way that I live.
Welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Mark Moyer, author of Win Again, speaker, career coach, and business advisor. And I help athletes, executives, and entrepreneurs reach their fullest potential. What you're going to be hearing in every single episode are conversations with athletes and other sports-related influencers. And we'll be offering you the insight that you need to succeed in life, including advice that will let you jump past your competition, whether it be for a great new job or taking your business to a much, much higher level. Make sure to connect with me on social media at Mark Moyer Coach, and go to my website, markmoyer.com, to get access to the tips and strategies that my coaching clients get directly. If you're looking for ways to make your mark, send me an email to mark@markmoyer.com, and I'll get you going right away. Thanks for joining me today. It's going to be an awesome episode. Now, are you ready to make your mark? Let's do this. Welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. My name is Mark Moyer, and I'm broadcasting to you live from New York City, and I'm super excited to have you on board, whether you're listening in New York, somewhere else in the United States, or anywhere else on the planet. Thanks for being here. And I got to tell you, I'm excited because I just had an amazing conversation with Dave Stevens. And Dave is such a remarkable guy. He was actually born without legs. He is legless. And we talked all about how he's overcome so many obstacles and barriers to actually play sports. This guy played collegiate football. He played baseball. He's done all kinds of things. He's been a reporter. He's worked with ESPN for 20 years, and just a superb guy, great motivational speaker. He gets you pumped up and excited, and you have to hear this episode. You have to hear his story. It really inspires you. It inspires everyone. But before you do that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, obviously, whether it's on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to it, Spotify, etc. But also jump onto the website for access to my previous episodes. They're all great. And I also have tons of great content on the website, whether you're starting a business and you want to grow it dramatically, or if you're in a career that you just want to really progress faster. Tons of content there. You'll love it. But let me stop my promo here and jump into the episode, because Dave is a great guy. You're going to love this episode. Happy listening. Hey everyone, I'm Mark Moyer, and welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. And I'm super duper excited to have Dave Stevens on board with me. David, say hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here, Mark.
Always my pleasure. And, Dave and I, we've been chatting for a little bit now. And what I will tell you about Dave going into this conversation, and Dave, don't blush or whatever it is, but you've got, number one, you've got amazing, what do they call it? Like newscaster voice. You've got a great sportscasting voice. It's not, maybe you trained for years, I don't know, but you got a great voice. You got a great personality. You're a funny guy, nice guy. So I'm thrilled to have you on board. That's all the sucking up I'm going to do. Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that awesome introduction.
Well, golly gee. Oh boy. Anyway, so Dave, what I'd love to do is really walk through a couple bits of your career and your life, because you're really an incredibly fascinating dude to an extent. I got to stop piling on all these, make your head get really big. But oh my gosh,
Yeah, it's getting bigger.
It is. Anyway, but going back to day one, I mean, why don't you first give me an idea of what you do now and what you've been doing, and just give me a short little bio, and then we're going to talk about specifics going back a ways.
Well, hopefully for your viewers, if they're really crazy and want to go find stuff, you can go find it on the Dave Stevens Speaks YouTube of all these things we're going to talk about. But, I was born without legs, put up for adoption, decided I didn't want to let my disability keep me from doing things. So I decided to play sports, and I got to do it at a very good competitive level, becoming the first person who was born without legs to ever play high school football and wrestling and baseball. And then I was lucky enough to get on a television show called That's Incredible back in the day. And it led to a scholarship and a TV job in Minnesota. And I went and I played college football in Minnesota at Augsburg University. And then a couple of years later, I had a chance to try out for the St. Paul Saints and played 3 weeks of minor league baseball with Darryl Strawberry and Jack Morris. And then I got a job at ESPN for 20 years and worked behind the scenes on SportsCenter, won 7 Emmys in my time there. They had the layoffs of 2015, and so then I had to reinvent myself a little bit, where it's time to kind of embrace what my life was about. So I'm a motivational speaker, and luckily I've also become a reporter for the Disability Channel, which now is fulfilling a lifelong dream of going out and interviewing some of the biggest names in entertainment and sports. I've had one-on-ones with guys that don't do one-on-ones, Aaron Rodgers and Larry Fitzgerald, and just recently Gronk for the second time this year. So I'm very blessed. I do a lot of charity work. I work for the Disability Dream and do baseball camps that are camps with Dave Clark that put on baseball camps for children with disabilities. We work with minor leaguers. I continued to take batting practice with the minor league teams. I play football for the Wounded Warrior Amputee football team. We play against NFL stars. I'm going to the Super Bowl for that for the 5th time in 5 years. So, I mean, I could go on and on. It doesn't sound like life.
Well, I think you've kind of covered it all right there. So, all right, we're done. Thanks very much. No, I'm kidding. But look, Dave, that's incredible, because, I mean, what you just did in about a minute and change there is really covered. I mean, there's so much that happened in there, and it's really, we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper. But why don't you first tell me about, some of your first memories as a kid, and obviously at some point you realize, well, you know what, I'm a little bit different than some of the other kids in the neighborhood, kind of a thing. But how old were you when you were put up for adoption? When did that happen?
Right from birth. I was
okay. So obviously,
two older people decided to adopt me and raise me, and I'm very, very blessed and lucky that they instilled in me, maybe their age was a factor in not holding me back and giving me my independence. But I turned out pretty okay, and the only regret is that my mom died when I was 18, the day I left for college, and my dad died a year and a half later, both from cancer. So
wow,
yeah.
And so what are what are some of the lessons that you feel you learned from them at sort of when you were younger? I mean, obviously, I mean, God bless them. You're right. I mean, they took on something it's probably a little bit more challenging than, adopting someone who's more able-bodied and so forth, right? And so what are some of the things that you may have learned from them at an earlier age that really helped you as you grew up?
Well, I think that they never held me back, and they always challenged me. And so I did everything for myself. I would climb up on the toilet to go to the bathroom, and I would climb up and do things that I learned to climb and move around and do all these things. And I took that, to the level of being accepted in grade school, where none of these kids have ever seen anybody, in those days I had artificial legs that just basically dragging dead weight around because I don't have hips. So it wasn't like I could go walk and see what you see in this day and age with all these amazing technologies that they have. But kids accepted me for me, and I realized that my personality was a huge draw as far as accepting it, making fun of myself, letting them kind of touch the legs and poke fun of me and do these kind of things. And then if any outsider said anything, everybody else would jump on them. So I really was never bullied. I wasn't made fun of. I mean, it's when you go in public that people that don't know you that stare and point and say the things. To this day and age with my kids, they hear it, and we always look for who said the weirdest thing or which kid freaked out the most, or, you know, those kind of things, just because it's just common. And I think my kids have learned to embrace it as well. So I just thought of myself as a normal kid, and then so playing sports seemed normal for me.
Well, and that's what this is all about. We're going to get into this a little bit later. But so you go to, you know, you're growing up and you end up going to high school, Wickenburg, right?
Wickenburg, Arizona, a nice little cowboy town outside of Phoenix.
And, you know, at what point did you say, you know what, I'm going to play sports. I'm going to play sports, not just to play sports, but I'm going to play competitively. I want to play on these teams. What spurred that on? I
started in 7th and 8th grade when I was playing volleyball and basketball and flag football and softball and all these things. And I'm like, wow, well, I'm doing it this way. Why can't I do it at the high school level? So once I got to Wickenburg, nobody in the history of anything had ever tried to do what I was going to do. So I had to take blood tests, physicals, all kinds of psychological things.
Really?
They were trying to find reasons that I couldn't play instead of finding the reasons why I could. And it was such a battle. Parents in Wickenburg were like, we don't want this kid to have special attention, taking away from our coaches because they've got, you know, it was this whole thing that I didn't know till years later until I had it explained to me. But, you know, finally I got out there for the first practices, and then I got my first game, and it turns out the head coach of the varsity team didn't want me playing on JV, so they told me not to play me. But the head coach played me anyway, and I made a tackle on my first play of the game and a couple more tackles and a fumble recovery. And then I guess the legend started, like, you know, okay, we got to, what can we do now? I guess we got to let him play. So I had that success, started baseball the same way, loving coaches to this day I'm friends with. And then wrestling was really my best sport because I didn't have a disadvantage. I had the advantage. For you leggies out there, I would know how to wrestle a guy with legs, but you wouldn't know how to wrestle a guy without legs. So, you know, I use that to my advantage, and I got the state championships. So it's like, you know, state tournaments, and I won tournaments and got medals and trophies and all that kind of stuff. So like high school was amazing to me, you know, and it just started. I mean, if we'd have had this internet in this day and age, like, I'd be rich. There'd be a movie about my life. Like, I'd have all this kind of cool, you know, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, there's still time. There's still time for that. all you listeners out there that can get a movie made about you, let's get that done. So you go to high school and all this amazing stuff is happening to you, and then you're thinking, well, you know what? I'm a senior now. I think it's time to maybe think about where to go to college. What brought you to Augsburg? What sent you? You were in Arizona, pretty toasty. Minnesota, not toasty.
Well, I almost was going to go play baseball at Arizona State.
Okay.
Because I tried it with the Olympic team. I was in the same outfield with Barry Bonds and Odubin McDowell for that tryout back in the day. And then they got put on probation for taking a drug called Nardil, so they lost scholarships and half scholarships. And a guy that was walking through a grocery store and looked at a tabloid, saw the National Enquirer, and it said, legless boy does all this stuff, and he didn't believe it. He opened it up, saw that I was the centerfold of the National Enquirer, and he drove up to town to meet me. And he's like, I want to put you in college. And I'm like, where? Augsburg University in Minnesota. I'm like, oh, wow, because I got a TV job in Minnesota from That's Incredible in Minnesota in the same city. So I was like, okay, I'll go. So,
wow.
I ended up going there.
Wait, so That's Incredible happened before Augsburg?
Yeah, it happened in '81. And I got a TV job as a junior in high school during the summers. Oh. So I went up to Minnesota and flew up there and stayed and worked, back with Kirby Puckett and Ken Herbeck and those guys in the early Twin days. And, got a taste of it as a junior, bought my car for my senior year in high school. And I was living the golden dream at then, So, and that's exactly what I wanted to do at that age. There were two things I wanted to do when I was young. I wanted to play professional baseball, and I wanted to work on TV. And so to have those dreams and to have those, start to happen for me, it just sometimes, especially now, I pinch myself because I feel so young, even though this old body's been beaten up and hit and kicked and everything. That's like, I feel like a kid when I walk into a Suns game in Arizona or a Philadelphia Eagles game a couple weeks ago, and I'm sitting there with Chris Long and looking over at all these guys, and I'm like, wow, I've come full circle.
Well, you really have, and so you start doing it. Well, tell me a little bit about That's Incredible. What was that? What was that all about? I mean, I remember it, but
Yeah, it was that show. It was kind of like Yahoo or YouTube before we had the internet, because they'd put all these funny different stories, eclectic stories together. And mine was, here's this legless little guy from a cowboy town in Arizona playing football and baseball. And so then after that, I got cards, I got letters, I got all kinds of people that were reaching out to me, and I ended up going to Minnesota and working there for 8 years and covering 2 World Series of Minnesota Twins and the Super Bowl and all that stuff. And then ESPN, I used to do interviews for ESPN, running to the Metrodome or the Vikings and getting sound with Herschel Walker, Kirby Puckett, or whoever, and selling it to ESPN as a freelancer. And they're like, hey, you're good at this, why don't you come to ESPN? And I'm like, well, I want to be on camera, but like, oh no, come work behind the scenes. So I end up coming here in '95, and I've been here ever since. Behind the scenes, it was great, getting to know Chris Berman and all the guys that you see in the commercials and in the heyday. I mean, it's a lot different, and that's not our ESPN anymore, like when we were kids, you and I, when it started. Right. But it was a great run, to get 7 Emmys, to be a manager of the assignment desk and to boss people around and make an impact on the storytelling. It really helped me for, what I do now as a speaker and what I do now as how it relates to how I handle interviews and how I talk to the athletes and how I treat them with respect.
So as you like being a boss, huh?
No.
Bossing people.
No. Ali, when you have to fire somebody and let them go, man, that is just...
No, you're supposed to give someone else that job.
Yeah, I want to call it sick on those days. Those were the worst.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I'm curious, going back to your Minnesota days when you said you were playing baseball there with Strawberry, with Strawman. What was that like? I mean, he was he was at the tail end of his career, and he was kind of just not playing out his days, but that's sort of what he was doing, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was at a real crossroads, and I walked out onto the field, and I know he signed as a last-ditch, one last chance kind of thing,
right,
with the St. Paul Saints, which was, equivalent of AA, AAA, independent baseball. And I walked out on the field, and all cameras zoomed in on me, and all of a sudden, all the media was focused on me and leaving Straw alone. And he really felt that was kind of, that he wasn't being bothered. And we became friends, and we talked a lot, and we'd have lunch together, and we'd talk about what he's been through, and we're still friends to this day and age, and so to play baseball with him for 3 weeks and see a side of him, I can only judge people on how I've met them, unless you're R. Kelly or O.J. Simpson or Bill Cosby, I'm not going to have a preconceived notion against you. And so I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I know he did have those demons, but he now makes an impact. He's got some great rehab centers in Tampa. He is he goes out and preaches and has a church and has done real well. But, for me, playing minor league baseball, to start in a game with Jack Morris on the mound, and I look in the outfield and there's Darryl Strawberry, and here's this legless dude playing second base, And then on the road, he hit 3 home runs, and he told the manager, he's like, hey, Skip, throw in Dave. I got to pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry in Madison, Wisconsin. So there's not a lot of guys with legs that can say they pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry,
That's really cool. Well, and Strawman, I think he gets a lot of he's misunderstood sometimes, and he's one guy that's actually genuinely a nice guy. Like
he is tremendous.
Guy.
And the parallels and the sadness of he and Gooden, they're forever tied together, but they both haven't taken the same direction as to where they are now, where Straw's doing good, and Dwight, if you suddenly heard of an obituary of Dwight Gooden, it wouldn't shock you.
No, he's had a lot of trouble turning things around completely. So you're at ESPN. At any point while you were there, I mean, you were there a long time. Was there a point where you said, "Wait, guys, hey, I'm good looking. How about putting me, put some eye candy,
it was
in front of camera?"
As much as I wanted to, and I would still do occasional on-camera things for friends and stuff like that. It was just, you have to go and make your mark somewhere else, go to a market and work your way back up. And I always felt like I had gotten to that point. And then I've kind of been on hiatus for 23, 24 years. So it's great to do it. I wish I was a lot skinnier and younger. And better looking than I am now, but the reception by the athletes has been tremendous. It started at the Super Bowl last year when there's all these guys in the crowds getting, hundreds and hundreds of guys trying to get one guy. And I walk up to him and he kneels down and they sit and they start talking to me, and it started upsetting people. But, you can also see the tapes where Guillermo from Jimmy Kimmel sits on my lap and we have fun. And, comedians get down on the ground with me and do it's turned into a shtick, which as you said, you put them at ease. I try to give them a leg joke or say something silly or, Larry Fitzgerald, I'm not a leg guy. I'm a hands guy, and you have great hands, and he'll laugh. And, the things I say with Gronk, or I started talking about Dunkin' Donuts with Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, I couldn't get a Dunkin' Donuts in this town. And we started talking, it's funny. It's not the usual, do you hate your coach? Do you feel like he should?
Right.
Like, anybody can get that stuff. I like to try to get the different sides where I make Tim Tebow laugh out loud. When I'm like, if a guy without legs was chasing you down out there, what would you have done? And he's laughing from his belly because you can tell, he's at ease and he's comfortable. Yeah. It's a nice thing. So I really, you can't always go back in time, but I feel like I've really reached the fountain of youth as far as what I'm doing for the Disability Channel.
Well, look, Dave, the only reason we're speaking right now is I saw that promo piece you did, or not a promo piece, I'm sorry, but like a year in review you did about saying, 2018 was a great year for you. And I watched, I got to tell you, I was impressed with the caliber of people you spoke with. And you're absolutely right. If it's a disability, or if you're just, or not, but you're genuinely known as a nice guy who asks good questions and is not trying to stir up controversy and so forth, the players are drawn to that. And yes, you have a disability, yes, you don't have legs, but you know what, people are also drawn to you because you have a smile on your face and you're a good guy. I mean, if you were, you didn't have legs but you were a jerk and you were kind of always being snarky and stuff, then they'd be like, well, there's that asshole, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said about your personality and how you're bringing that to these guys and getting guys like Tim Tebow to, as you say, laugh out loud, right?
It's been great. And, I give kudos to the NFL, the NBA, NHL, all these teams that they don't have to do this. They could go, what do we care about these guys? But now that they've seen it and my reputation is out there, and Rob Gronkowski says, hey, why don't you come back for a second interview? And I'm like, all right. So I wrapped up a gift and I gave him an Arizona jersey because that's where I went to college. And he had a great time. And then afterwards, Stacey James, their PR guy, he goes, I've been in PR for 25 years. I've never seen a media person give a gift to an athlete. I'm like, what's wrong with it? Like, it's just, you put them at ease and have fun. They're just people. And so, we'll talk about.
Yeah, but look, Gronk didn't buy you anything, and that's just so disappointing. I'm kidding.
But the weird thing is, Mark, is when we did our first interview, I got this package from the Patriots. And it was 2 8x10 autographed from Gronk saying, had a great time, thank you so much, and a nice little handwritten note. I'm like, professional athletes don't do that to, the guys on TV, Rich Eisen and all these guys. And I'm like, it's humbling to make an impact like that and then say, hey, why don't you come back? And we were supposed to do it for Miami, and they lost on that, the Hail Mary pitchback play, and then they lost to Pittsburgh, and they finally won. And I'm like, okay, we're going up. And he actually forgot about the interview, went home. They called him and texted him, and he drove back to the stadium. I mean, how many athletes would just see ya, I'm on vacation. Belichick gave us 5 days off. I'm out of here. He turned around and came back. So, I mean,
that's great.
These guys, you have to respect them. They get bad reps. They get, and again, they're just human like us, and they're under the microscope. But it wasn't like that in the 80s and 90s when I was in the media, where every breathable moment can be captured on tape or by somebody to expose you, when sometimes you just want to have a beer with your friends and you don't want to worry about your conversations.
You're right. It's absolutely incredible that and it's interesting because I think some athletes have sort of worked their way on figuring out how to turn that to their advantage, but others are just like, what you just said, it's you just want to have a beer and hang out. And even if it's with your friends and telling off-color jokes or doing whatever, you don't want someone in your face with that phone, putting it out there, for the world to see. It's funny now. I've become some, very good friends with someone who does all the sports, sort of like the brand management for an athlete, to make sure that they understand how to really curate what they're putting out there and be careful what they say and they do. And these people are becoming much more prevalent. In fact, her name is Lauren Walsh. I actually just met her a little while ago. for a quick bite, and she runs an agency out of Chicago where they're very what they call faith-based, but what that means is not necessarily religion-based, but it's more so where they focus on those athletes that really put out a great image and a great, doing the right thing sort of a thing. And, I think someone like Tim Tebow, I'm sure, would fall in perfectly with that.
J.J. Watt, another guy, those
absolutely,
guys.
Absolutely. So anyway, but that's all great stuff. So how did you end up hearing about the Disability Channel? Like, what got you connected with them?
Well, I think they found out about me because I was doing things for our Disability Dream and Do camps with Dave Clark, who's another great story. The only pitcher ever who pitched in the minor leagues on crutches. He had polio and pitched on crutches, threw a knuckleball, was in various organizations, became a coach, an Olympic coach, coached overseas. So he puts on these camps that we put on for any child with any type of disability, just a day to be normal and to play baseball. And I think they caught wind of what I was doing for them and the TV things, and they saw that, and they reached out to me, and they said, hey, we don't have anybody in the United States. We're based out of Canada. Would you like to kind of start doing stuff for us? So I kind of do it when things work in with my life, and it's worked in my life pretty well. And a lot of people, just once now they hear about it, they're not sure what it is, but they don't turn us down. And, I'm not ashamed to show them my tapes or send them a clip when they say, well, what do you do? And I'll send them something. Or here I am, live on Lambeau Field with Kenny Mayne doing a pregame show, and then I get to play football before 75,000 people at halftime. I mean, again, there's not a lot of people that get to do that. So I count my blessings, and I appreciate what I've been given, appreciate the opportunities. And, hopefully more people will see, that just because you have a disability doesn't mean you can't contribute to society, which I do for, charities and my work, and just trying to live my life so people can see who I am. And now that I'm a father of 3, growing boys, that I'm just a normal dude. You can call me handicapped, but I'd prefer that you just, say he doesn't have any legs, because that word handicap, it encompasses everything. If you're blind, you're deaf. If you have cerebral palsy, if you have, any type of abnormality, you're handicapped. If you're white, you're white. You're black, you're black. If you're Hispanic, you're Chinese. That's your religion. But handicap. So I think if people see my story, is Dave Stevens handicapped? And I never talk in the third person, but it's like, I don't have legs, and I've done all these things that able-bodied people, dream of. I've tried out for the Dallas Cowboys. I've played football in Ireland and Australia and New Zealand. I've done things. I've interviewed Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods and all these things, and it's just like, if you see me from the waist up, I look like any another normal fat schlep. But now, without the legs, I'm not against using the gimmick if it works, Well,
of course. Well, look, but see,
sex sells, right? Sex sells.
Well, yeah, it does. But what I think is important, and you're being very humble right here. But look, as you said, you may use it to your advantage, but it's really just opening the door, right? You've got to still be Dave Stevens walking in through that door and be the guy that people want to talk to and so forth, right? So that's really critical. And I think what's important, though, is that, and we've talked about this earlier, the need to really educate not just other, as you say, handicapped or disabled people, but also non-handicapped and disabled.
All you
right?
normal ones out there, yeah.
And
that's why
normal.
I really love, I talk to corporations, I talk everywhere, but the schools is where I make the most impact. And I've got another one coming up this Friday. And again, I go and immerse myself. I'll go to the classes and talk to the kids, and then we'll have a big presentation or something like that. And I'll go to PE and play with them and goof around and just let them see. Because again, the curiosity is the thing I think that starts the ignorance and the prejudice. So, when parents tell them, don't look at him, don't stare at him, I say, let them look at him and let them stare at them. Let them ask those questions. And if they come up to me at the mall and their parents are trying to yank them away, and I'm like, hey, I'm Dave. It's okay. I'm not a monster. They're going to see that, hey, these people that are a little different are not so different, and I can warm up to them. So when they see me on the stage and I talk about my life and I show them, the day-to-day, how do I, get in the car and get through snow and get on an airplane and all these things that I take for granted, because there's no book about how to do things in life without legs for dummies. I just kind of had to figure it out as I went along. And the same for my coaches and my friends and people at work. And, especially at ESPN, I was probably one of the first disabled people ever to work at ESPN in '95. I started, and, with a visual impairment, on crutches and things like that. And, it took a while for people to, how do I treat him? What do I do? And that kind of thing. But again, my personality, it always tries to make people, they forget that. And it's just Dave. They remember me as Dave. Oh, and he doesn't happen to have legs, which is what I really have striven, to try to achieve to, again, I get it that it's weird. I get it that it makes people uncomfortable. But if I can let them realize that anybody that's like this is a human and has feelings and can be sensitive, it hasn't been a picnic for me, but, I don't mind sharing, the highs and lows that I've had.
Right. And I think what's really important though, is that I don't want to say embraced your disability, but you came to terms with them many, many years ago. And
I've turned my disability into my ability.
Right. Yeah.
And like I said, I don't like that word, but if that's what they're going to label it, then that's what I've tried to do.
Or it could be, we can make up a new word like pro-ability or something like that. Or
they get so hung up.
I know.
So hung up on, first it was, handicapable, and now they've changed the handicap parking to look like the guy's being ejected from his wheelchair. I think it's to show. Have you noticed that? It looks like they're like ski downhill, and I'm like, is that to show that we in handicap wheelchairs are active? Like, I just don't, I don't know where this stuff comes from, but it's okay. Like I say, when I tell people I get on the plane, they're like, well, don't you hate getting on a plane? I'm like, no, I got a first class seat and the best leg room on the plane for anybody. So it doesn't, I don't have to think about those kind of issues and things like that.
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing about the ejection from the wheelchair. Oh my God.
Yeah, take a look at the new signs. They're just like they're going downhill skiing. Whoa.
Oh dear God. And I guarantee you it was a non-disabled person that drew that thing, right? There's no way, that's the other thing is that, I think sometimes, again, as you say, able-bodied, or whatever you said, normal or whatever it was earlier. But, I think also what really is, and I'm so happy you're speaking at the schools and to the kids, because kids can be obviously incredibly harsh and incredibly difficult. I like your story about what you said earlier when you were growing up, how right away you'd engage with the kids and just let them, as you said, almost poke you and this and that, and realize that you're just Dave. And, yes, you don't have legs, but you're 100% solid everywhere else. And you're a great guy and a great friend and all that sort of thing. So I think that's such a great message to teach, not just other kids, but also other people in companies. I mean, I know that there's been a big sort of, people don't know what to do a lot, even when they're interviewing. I remember, I spent many, many years as an executive recruiter. And I remember there was a time, maybe 20 years ago, when a gentleman who had cerebral palsy, and he was interviewing at a company, but they just didn't, he was brilliant and he would have been an amazing employee, but they just didn't know, they didn't know what to do. And they ended up, I think, passing, and they'd say, oh, it was for some other reason, but they just struggled with all that. And, maybe if he had the opportunity to figure out how to put them at ease and so on. So I think that's also something that maybe can be taught to the disabled people, that, look, maybe it's almost like a 101 class or something where, here's some great tricks that you, Dave, use when you're meeting new people and how to put them at ease. And maybe it's something that more and more people can put out there, use social media, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and say, hey, if you happen to be disabled in any sort of way, or if you've got any sort of illness or disease or this or that, here are 7 things I like to do to help put people at ease, and boom, 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 and boom, boom. You should do that, actually. I think that could be really neat.
And Mark, as a manager, I was on both sides of the fence, because I think it's probably, for a lot of these companies, they're also apprehensive to, once they have hired somebody with a disability, to not grade them or give them a review as harsh as they would someone else because of the sensitivity. Right? And so, I've been on both sides of that, where if I think the first couple of years, maybe it was like that at ESPN, but then I got a great reputation, and, if something got screwed up, I would get, not that it happened a lot, but, you want to be able to be able to not just let it slide because, oh, well, you know, he doesn't have legs or whatever. But I think elsewhere in the workplace, I don't know, it's like that. So it's like there's that oversensitivity not to, you know, treat them equal and give them equal pay, or give them hey, you need to improve here, or here, because, well, he can't do the job as fast because his hand lets him limit it to him. Well, is there something else? Can you get him software that can improve? Like, you know, do the things you can to help them, but also realize that, you know, I always wanted to be, you know, judged on my merits, not my demerits, you know?
Right. Now, so question for you then, you know, when you are looking for new speaking gigs, et cetera, I mean, how do you go about finding these things? Or they find you, or, I mean, where do people find out more about you?
You know, we've been out for about a year now. I mean, I've been doing it for 10 years, but DaveStevensSpeaks.com has been out for about a year. And we've had a lot of word of mouth. And, you know, then I've gone to schools, and the next day, somebody's mom whose kid went there, that's happened at this school I'm going to this week. They saw me, they were inspired. Now they're bringing 4 people from the district region to watch me. So again, I always have to be on my A game, because you never know who's in the audience, and you want people to take away my message the best as possible. We try to sometimes, if I'm doing a big corporate thing, hey, do you have a couple of high schools that I could hit during the day for free, and it'll make you guys look good, and you get promotion, and I make my point, you know, because the adults, yeah. But again, you make your impact at the lower levels before you get rid of the prejudices, and people have that implanted memory. Whereas, you know, they come out of the school, and this girl just a few weeks ago said, I'm going to play college volleyball because if Dave could do it, what's keeping me from doing it? And those are the kind of things that really make an impact in me. So, you know, hopefully people can go to the website, or they can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all those easy things to do. But, you know, we're booking a lot of things, and I got a lot of camps coming up, and I'm really excited. You know, I've got to go to the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. That's
horrible. How are you gonna manage that? I can't believe you're gonna be able.
Since my Vikings are never there, I don't really care much. Anyway.
That's pretty funny.
But you know,
so one thing I'd love to give you some just like put my coaching hat on for a second.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think you should absolutely do, and it's one thing I like to talk to with all my clients, and that is to really leverage the power that I think is LinkedIn, and
it's been amazing to see how it's exploded in the last few months.
It's amazing. And you know what? Look, I didn't know anything about you until I saw your post on LinkedIn, and I think if you almost could be, I don't want to say an ambassador for a lot of this, but I think if you started writing content and posting it, and you can either keep it short form in a post or make a full-fledged article about it. And it could be something, as I just said earlier, about, you know, 7 things you can do as a disabled person to put your coworkers at ease, put your fellow students at ease, or, you know, some of the things that I've done in the past that have worked for me, and just start putting it out there. What you're going to find is that other, whether it's disabled or non-disabled people, are going to be drawn to that because they like the fact that you're teaching, that you're showing, that you're putting it out there. I mean, look, I really enjoyed the video sort of summary of last year, and with you interviewing all these people, which obviously showcased your skill set at doing that. But I think if you also showed the other side of you, where you maybe do, or it can be a video, a short, you know, just use your iPhone, whatever it is, and just a short little 1 or 2 minute video on, hey, you know, guys, you know, Dave Stevens here, and I'm taking a break from doing a lot of the reporting that I'm doing on behalf of, you know, Disability Channel. I'm sorry, but, you know, I'd love to talk to you guys real quick about, you know, 3 things that I think you can do today that'll really dramatically increase your blah, 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 whatever it is, or, you know, make people around you feel more comfortable, or whatever you feel are some issues to tackle. So, you know, maybe that's something you can start doing, you know, here and there. I mean, you can, you know, when we're done with the podcast, you can almost pick up your phone and go like, hey guys, I just finished the podcast, and, you know, a couple of thoughts I had about that, blah, 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 whatever it is, you know. So that's something, because look, there's a lot of people that I know that are trying to increase their presence. And it doesn't mean, I'm not talking about the, you know, Instagram influencers that are trying to sell whatever it is, but more so if you've got you're an entrepreneur basically, right? And you need to, like me and everybody else, scramble for your next dollar to an extent. And so I always say, look, especially a platform like LinkedIn, is basically free advertising. You're basically allowed to, as long as you're providing value and content that people can really grow with,
Right.
and then it's all good. So,
but how do you get them to see it? You know, I feel like I feel bad if I tag people because they're like, "Why are you tagging me?" Like, how do you get it? How do you grow your audience then?
That's a good question.
You saw my content virtually seen by no one, you know, and it's like, why am I doing this? But I know I need to do it, and it's, you know, I do everything 100% at how I do it. So it's like, you know, you got Gronk, you got Rodgers, you got Larry Fitzgerald talking about retirement, all these things, and no one has seen it.
So, all right. Do any of these people have social media? Does Aaron Rodgers have social media channel?
And I tag him on Twitter and I do all that.
Don't tag him. Just ask him. Just say, look, do me a favor. Next Tuesday or whatever it is, please do me a favor. I'll send you a reminder. Can you shoot out our interview? Can you do that for me? Or don't be afraid to ask these people, because they wouldn't be talking to you if they didn't like you. And there aren't a ton of likable people sometimes in the media or in that space, right? Oh, yeah, so if you're well liked, of course they want to do it for you because they appreciate what you did for them. And you know, my feeling is that, for example, in my case, I tag people that I know I'm friends with that like me, and I know that they'll share it. And a lot of times I'll say, you know, so what I'll do is I'll put the post, and then I'll do a comment underneath it that I start tagging people. But what I'll do is I'll say, you know, hey guys, you know, this video is about, I'm making this up, but how to interview better for whatever it is. But I'm just curious to hear if you have any interview tips. Would love to hear from you. You know, leave your comments below. And then I tag, you know, 30, 40 people. But I also tag people that I know have a pretty significant network. And if they only like the comment instead of actually reply, that's fine, because when they like it, it goes to all their network and it gets multiplied. And that's what we're trying to do here, is really, you know, multiply as much of this as we can, right? Just really spread whatever it is. I did a podcast recently with Michaela Alexis, and she is a big sort of star on LinkedIn, not because she's beautiful, she's this, that, but because she's got tons of energy and she speaks to the millennial crowd or the younger crowd, the under 30 and everything. Right. But she also talks about, you know, a lot of things that people that age go through when they're trying to find a job. And LinkedIn decided they really liked her messaging, and they sort of made her a LinkedIn influencer. And she went from a couple thousand followers to 130,000.
Wow. Huh.
And boom. And you know what? Honestly, I think she's fabulous, great personality, really funny, really nice, and everything else. And I realized, look, you know what? If I have her on my podcast, and I'm assuming that I'll get some of that exposure too. And that I think she's fabulous, and I'm going to promote her to death and so forth. But I'm also realized that, look, maybe she can help me too with her exposure. Right. Oh, and it's the same thing with you, Dave. I mean,
we'll tweet this and we'll put it out there, and because I have a lot of celebrity followings, and I'll tag them and those kind of things. But
you know what? Don't just tag them, because I think I'll say this carefully, but a lot of them have people that handle their social media, and those people get inundated all day long with these tags and stuff like that. And the person, the athlete, may genuinely want to talk to you, work with you, repost all that stuff, but it doesn't get to them because they've got people that sort of filter out all this stuff. So it's quite possible, Dave, that you're getting almost filtered out by people that, like, you know how to reach out to Gronkowski, right? Yeah. But there might be some times where you've decided to do something where it got nipped at the bud, and you've been like, wait a minute, but that's Gronk. Well, maybe Gronk has somebody that kind of oversees some stuff, and it just didn't get past them. So I think.
How will they see it then?
Well, because if you've got a direct, I'm assuming if you've got interviews with people, you've got to have some sort of contact info that isn't just their Twitter handle. It might be an email, it might be a text or whatever it is. So just shoot them a quick text, something direct to them that says, hey, you know, I remember we did that interview last year at wherever it was. You know, I'd love to either do a follow-up, whatever it is, but do me a favor. I want to put that back out there. I thought it was a great interview. If you don't mind, would you be able to share it on your network as well? And I don't think these people are going to say, no, you're a jerk, I hate you. They're going to say, yeah, of course I will, right?
Right.
So that's how I like to do it instead of I find that retweeting or that they're just using that, I mean, sometimes I get lost. I mean, look, we all get inundated all day long from I get so many emails and this and that. It just comes to me.
Especially since they're out there, they can find your stuff and get
Right.
to Instagram and all those hacks. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's what I would do. But I would start, I think you've got a lot of great stuff going on up here. I think what you need to do is really start getting it out to more people, and they'll be absolutely thrilled that you did. So chase them down. And speaking of this, I want to talk about one other thing that has become much more prevalent today. And that is really there's a much bigger spotlight being put on, some of the issues that are going on in the sport of football, but really any sport that you have the opportunity to, which is the wrong word, but to suffer any sort of brain trauma, head trauma. And obviously the spotlight is more on the NFL because the hits are so much more ferocious. And, a lot of these players are going through a lot of, they're suffering brain trauma. And sometimes, now there's more emphasis on really making sure that you haven't suffered a concussion, or at least not too much of a severe one. And there's protocols and so forth, and new helmet technology. But at the end of the day, you still see some really dramatic impacts. Do you feel personally, and because I know that you've suggested that you feel like you might have gone through a lot of that stuff yourself. What do you think? Is there enough being done now, and or if not, what do you think can be done within, whether it's just football or all sports?
Well, I think we're about 20 years behind where we should be. And for your viewers, or if you're just joining in late, me playing high school and college football without legs, I'm on my hands. And again, for the visuals, you can just go to my Dave Stevens Speaks YouTube channel and look at me playing college and high school and all that. My head was banged every time, knees, hands, whatever, making the tackle. I was a defensive lineman, nose guard. So I'm in even in practice, every play, crunch, crunch, crunch. I know I have it. I know they don't have a test for it. It's not like they can cut me and check my rings like a tree. Apparently you can't discover it. They have some neurological tests, but I know I have it. I get the depression bouts every now and then. I can get cranky and as personable as you think I am, but I also have the short-term memory loss. I have things I can't remember. People I worked with for 20 years and I'm staring at them thinking I can't remember their name. Just the stuff that I've heard of that Jim McMahon and some of these guys have experienced. And then you hear the tragedies of a Junior Seau and Duerson and all these guys that killed themselves. They got to that point. And, possibly, that's caused a lot of it, and because of football. And I know they're trying to fix it and do that, but I think they really need to pour more into it. And again, figure out ways which they've tried to improve with kickoffs and certain plays. Like, you can't take away the hitting from football or it wouldn't be football. So you're probably going to see less and less fans. It is starting to deteriorate at a certain level as far as the kneeling situation didn't help it at all as far as the popularity. It's still huge. Super Bowl's big. It's never going away. But you're seeing guys walk away from the game 2 or 3 years, or walking away out of college, or being told that they shouldn't do this anymore. And so I think that, the NFL is just, it bleeds money. And I think they really could put a lot more into the, not to just help NFL players, but to help combat veterans who are coming back with CTE and people that have suffered, disabilities, or if you're epileptic and you've hit your head or somebody. There's so many causes that causes it. It's not just a football related thing, but they could be the pioneer. And instead of hiding it and denying it and almost ignoring it for so long, they're embracing it more. But almost because, like, if you got caught having an affair, if everyone didn't know about it, you could just get away with it forever. So now it's come to the limelight, and we have people that should still be alive that just retired that are dead. And so I'm scared for myself. It's not like I know I have Alzheimer's or cancer. It's this. I just don't know what I'm in for. And I'm 53, and it's kind of when the stuff kicks in. So I forgot your name again. Is Jerry? Bob? Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld.
So I find myself writing notes on my phone and doing these kind of things. So I, try to help myself remember things when I lose keys and my kids don't remember where they're at, and that kind of stuff. And it scares me. But I hope the league takes more time to look into it and put more money into it and help all these old guys that are going to be in trouble in a few years.
Well, look, and listen, as you said earlier, they bleed money, they print money, but I think they're coming around now. I get it from I got to be careful how I say this. I was going to say sometimes I understand their perspective. Their perspective is they're in business to put on a sport and to put fannies in the seat and eyeballs on the TVs and or wherever you watch a game, listen to a game. That's their job. Their job is not necessarily to worry about what happens after the game, right? That's some of their perspective. Right. But I think that they're getting smarter and realizing that it can only be great press and great for them if they are much more involved in in taking care of their alums, the players that used to play. And especially, I think I'd be more inclined to play football if I knew I was going to be taken care of after the game.
Well, it's like, if you twisted your knee at work, you'd get workman's comp. If you worked at a place that gave you cancer, they would treat it. Well, you know what you're in for in the NFL. And so that's why I'd like to see them embrace it almost like a lifetime warranty. Like, hey, you play in this league, we'll set this money aside, and we will take care of you when these kind of things happen, and work to get better testing and the equipment, and start allowing CBD oils and things like that can take away pain and not, it's not a drug, and it's these kind of things that can help the athletes recover and leave a pain-free life and do these kind of things, because the bottom line, it's about money and ratings, and if you don't have your best guys out there as long as you can, so it's a catch-22, but it's a great topic to discuss.
Sure is. All right, so we're switching gears, and we're going to jump into the segment I like to call Hit Your Mark, and I'm going to throw a quick bunch of questions at you.
All right.
Sort of, answer them as you can. First question is, if I gave you, I don't even know what the amount of money is, but what would be the first car you would love to, what is the car you would love to own?
I don't know what it's called, but it's that car that is like a 3-wheel Batmobile.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the thing? With like I don't know what it's called, but I would go and buy that. And I can't really drive it much because you can't put a wheelchair on it. So it would be to just drive around in parades and wave at people and go, because you can't drive it in bad weather. But for some reason, I would like to drive that 3-wheel, whatever it is, and just have that car.
By the way, I think everybody would. That's a great choice. That's really cool. And you know what? I bet we can figure out a way to get you in there. I'm sure we can. That's great. That's a great answer. Secondly is, you've played a lot of sports throughout your life. You mentioned volleyball, wrestling, football, baseball. What do you think was the easiest sport that you took to? Like, what did you really enjoy playing the most?
I think baseball was easiest, and I always had that, thirst to be a professional, because there was a little person, I don't want to say the wrong word, Eddie Goodell.
Yep.
Bill Veeck signed a little person for one at-bat.
Right.
He had one at-bat, and then they never let anybody like that play again. And I always thought, I want to be the next Eddie Goodell, but I want to be a player. And irony of ironies, Mike Veeck was the owner of the St. Paul Saints who signed me. And
wow.
So I came around. But baseball was my easiest. Wrestling was my best. And a new sport that I've just started playing the last year is sled hockey, which I've never played any adaptive sports before. And I've really taken to sled hockey, and I love it. I know I'm old and fat, but I get to crash into 22 and 23-year-old little punks.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love it. I guess I'm secretly a violent person, but I've really enjoyed the sled hockey. And it's given me an appreciation, one, of hockey, because I always used to say, man, if Gretzky's so good, why can't he skate for like 10 or 15 minutes a period?
Yeah.
And when you're out there for 2 minutes and you're like, you can't get off the ice and you're huffing and puffing and, So,
well, it's funny. I play ice hockey now, and I actually didn't start playing until I was 40 competitively. Mm-hmm. And I did not appreciate how difficult a sport that is, because and people don't appreciate the fact that, number one, you're on skates or on a sled, whatever it is, you're on ice, man. It's not, that's slippery.
You're never standing around. You're never standing around.
No. And then, right. And then secondly, you're skating and you're holding a stick. You got also equipment on. Then on top of that, you're trying to control a little puck that's this big. On top of that, you're trying to make sure that you're not getting creamed by somebody else. I mean, there's all these things that are happening at once. And then when I play and people watch, it's like it's slow motion. We're the slowest people around. And then you go to a hockey game, an NHL game, and if you have the opportunity to ever sit ringside, I mean, these guys are flying around like, it's
and when
incredible.
they hit the boards, they're hitting the boards.
Yeah, I know, everything shakes. But a great answer. Next is, I'd love to hear, you've interviewed tons of people, it looks like anyway. Who do you think stands out as the funniest? Like a guy that just was constantly like joking and laughing. I mean, a goofball and funny and all that sort of thing.
Oh man, wow. I'd have to say, you there?
Yep.
There we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd say Kenny Mayne from ESPN.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good buddy of mine, and we do a lot of stuff together. And he is just one-liners and funny. And, he's taught me a lot about how you handle yourself, if you're in the media. Like, if you ever see him take a photo, and he loves to take photos with fans, he won't let them hold up beers or have any alcohol in the photo.
Oh, really?
So then they can't say, I got drunk with Kenny Mayne or I did this
Oh,
with Kenny Mayne.
interesting.
It's really helped me. I do the kind of same thing because, again, in this day and age, they never know. You're standing next to a bar with an Aryan Brotherhood dude that you didn't know about. And suddenly,
yeah, right.
Hey, look at this. So but Kenny is funny. He's constantly, he's got my humor. I've got his. We'll just do one-liners and make up stuff that's not always appropriate for air and things like that. And, I'd say that. I mean, all these guys, once they, Tim Tebow is a hoot behind the thing. And once you get past that, he has that, he needs to be protected because everybody wants to take him down. And once you get past that, he's just a genuinely funny, guy. And I was always giving him one-liners and busting him up. And, when you give a speech in front of Tim Tebow, who gets paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to give speeches, it's very humbling, but to have a relationship with him. So, I mean, there's so many, that we're working on a book. It's getting there. We're about halfway done.
Oh, great.
So hopefully once I can get on, I mean, I've gotten drunk with Tom Glavine at the All-Star game. I've partied with Dennis Rodman. I've met Prince. Like all these stories that people don't know about that.
I think that'd be great. I look forward to seeing that book. Well, listen, you've been awesome, Dave. I mean, this has been a total joy for me. With the conversation just flows with you, and you really, you bring a lot of passion to what you do, which I appreciate, and you clearly want to do good out there. And, it's something that I focus on. I call it Make Your Mark because it's all about how you are making your mark out there, right? And between the people that you interview and you speak with, the people that you speak to, the people that you're trying to educate, and you are educating them, you're doing a great job. So I really appreciate you being on today. Thanks so much for your time, and keep doing the great stuff you're doing.
Thanks. It's all a part of my legacy. Get it?
Yes, I get it. Oh my God, that's you know what? Damn it. That's something I would have said. Oh, you got me. Thanks for being on, Dave. Have a great rest of the day. Appreciate it. See ya. Thanks so much for joining us today on this episode of Make Your Mark podcast. The goal of the podcast is to help you find ways to make your mark, to succeed in life, and to jump past your competition. Be sure to leave me a review on iTunes and Stitcher, and subscribe to be the first to hear new episodes. If you're looking for ways to make your mark, send me an email, mark@markmoyer.com, and I'll get back to you right away. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.